Electricast.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
Why wait to see if you'll get something you like this Valentine's Day when you can go to BlueNile.com and find something you'll love? Whether you're looking to treat yourself to a little winter sparkle or show a galentine how much you appreciate them, Blue Nile offers a wide selection of high-quality designs, expert guidance, and free 30-day returns for the ultimate peace of mind. You can even design your own jewelry. Right now, save up to 50% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
On this episode of Missing the Point, we recap the NBA draft, from the biggest moves made on and before draft night to the moves after, including Gordon Hayward opting out of his $34 million deal with the Boston Celtics, and what moves can and should be made to finally get this generation of Celtics to the NBA Finals. But first, this episode is being brought to you by Boxo Crafts. Boxo is an arts and crafts focused kids subscription box. Boxo is a parent-run company that combines creativity and convenience in one monthly package, delivered right to your door. Boxo's premier box, Boxo Holidays, contains 4 separate art projects to get you and your family into the holiday spirit. Whether it's Halloween, Hanukkah, or Easter, they've got you covered with holiday fun. Boxo, we can't wait to see you create. Check out BoxoCrafts.com and exclusively to our listeners, enter the promo code MTP for 15% off your first order. That's BOXO Crafts.com, promo code MTP. Missing the Point is a 1-hour weekly, 2-hour monthly podcast recapping the biggest stories in the world of sports with a New England flavor. The show notes and transcript of today's episode can be found in the description box below, as well as on our website, mtpshow.com. If you're new to the show, consider subscribing. It's the easiest way to see when we publish new episodes. We are on iTunes, Spotify, Google, and wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to rate us and leave a review of any of our shows. We always appreciate your feedback. Also, be sure to follow us on all of our social medias. All of our links will be in the show notes. And check out our brand new website, www.mtpshow.com. That's mtpshow.com. And now, this is Missing the Point. But it's all relative.
Welcome to episode 17 of the MTP podcast. This is Missing the Point. I am Michael Marcangelo, joined alongside Rayshawn Buchanan, the real BK Bob Kelly, DK Sizzle, Dave Clarke, and today we are talking NBA draft review. It is just the tip off of the NBA season, of our NBA discussion. And guys, I don't care how you are. Celtics last night had a chance to do something. They didn't do it. They didn't do a big trade, but they did get some pretty good prospects. So DK, lead us off.
Yeah, I mean, like I said on the Sunday show, I'm a little disappointed that we ended up drafting the draft picks. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean these guys are going to play for us. I think Naismith will, but that kid we got from Oregon, I initially was out on the fact that we used that second pick, but the more I see of him, the more I talk myself into him. What's his name? Remind me of his name, Ray?
Aaron Naismith and Peyton Pritchett.
Yeah. So like that kid from Oregon, first I was disappointed that he was white, but it looks like he's like the only functioning kind of white player left in the NBA that we got killed by Miami with, which is like chase the ball, push the pace, handle well, lead from the front. And it looks like he's got those qualities. Like if he hits his ceiling, like that's the problem, obviously, with, drafting players. They're all prospects. He could play completely above his ceiling and his potential, or he could just be another Romeo Langford, like an annoying role-playing guard coming off the bench, not hitting his potential. But it as much as I was disappointed that we didn't package those picks and Gordon Hayward for a big man, because I completely talked myself into that happening. It was a good draft, and it was a better draft, I think, than we've had in recent seasons. We addressed a problem on the bench with that guard, and knowing that Gordon Hayward wasn't going to be on the team anymore, Naismith definitely addresses that position, and it looks like he's a really good shooter. Apparently he's the best shooter, and he was the best shooter in college last year. So with those kind of numbers, and if he can shoot off the screen as well as it looks like he can, I think it might even be an upgrade on Hayward considering his inconsistency. So a good draft is a good draft, I guess. You can't really complain about it.
Bobby, I know that pre-draft you were really down on the fact because there were rumors going around about, James Harden packaging for him coming over to Boston. You were against it. You talked yourself into it. It didn't happen. How do you feel about Aaron Naismith as a 14th overall pick?
I like the pick, especially because we're losing Gordon Hayward. That's just a fact at this point. He opted out, so Gordon Hayward is gone. I like Naismith because a lot of people had him as not only a good shooter, but the best shooter in the draft. So I saw that from a couple different people. Dude's got a long wingspan, so he's definitely what we need. So I like Naismith. I'm very glad we didn't trade for Harden, so I'll give them at least a B just for the fact that James Harden's not coming to town. But I really wish we had done something because, in my opinion, in the NBA, I'm sure I'll get to this later, but there's nothing more valuable to me than a draft pick that hasn't been taken yet, especially in the NBA. And as soon as you actually go ahead and take those draft picks, I really think you lose a lot of ability to move Gordon Hayward. And I think that's why he ended up opting out because the options just weren't there for the Celtics anymore. As soon as you actually take those picks and don't make that move, it closes so many doors on so many trades that we could have had. So that's just what annoys me about it. But I do like Naismith. Like I said, best shooter in the draft. So you can't complain about that. I do wish we got more though. So a B plus, maybe.
Rayshawn, I've been hearing for the better part of the last 36 hours that you're going to save it for the show. So let us have it, dude. What did you think about this pick?
Yeah, so all things considered, I don't think it was crazy. I feel like last year, because of what happened with Kyrie and then Horford leaving and just kind of Marcus Morris and those guys really just leaving a bad taste in people's mouths of how the season ended and just their character thing. Last year, I really felt they looked to draft character guys, right? So Grant Williams, Carson Edwards, Shamar Waters, and Roman Layford. Quiet. Grant Williams not quiet, but guys are going to be respectful. Guys are going to be team first oriented, but more potential, right? Not really saying, okay, we have a surefire pick, because if that was the case, we would have got Brandon Clarke and some other guys. But needless to say, we'll just leave it at that, right?
That would have been nice.
Now for this year, I felt like not only they drafted characters, but they drafted two competitors, and they drafted some dogs that is going to be needed, right? Because we talked about it on a previous show. Your 6'4" point guard, aka Marcus Smart, cannot be the only guy that brings that nasty. It needs to be other guys in there, right? So, and not saying these guys are going to come in being that, but I think Pritchard even more so than Naismith. I watched some of his tape last night, and I watched him weeks ago, but I kind of put him on the back burner. I didn't think that we would look to get him. I thought they would draft Tyrell Terry maybe if he was there, who ended up going to Dallas. But he Payton Pritchard, I love his demeanor. He just fights, and it's just I'm that guy. I remember, I think Washington is one of their bigger rivals, and he hit a three with 8.5 seconds left, and he's just yelling at the crowd this is my shit, this is my time. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I like having that, because now that lets me know you're not afraid of the moment, because that's just like how Tyler Hero was this year for Miami, right? Not afraid of the moment. I'm just gonna gun it. Whatever happens. So that's that. Far as making a deal, at the end of the day, yes, we want them to make a deal. We get that. It takes two to tango, y'all. It just does. And if teams are not going to
maybe three.
Yeah, 2 or 3, right? But if those teams are not going to take that bait, or even have that conversation or further those conversations, then that's just what it is. Now, thankfully, they traded the 30th pick. Now the guy that Memphis drafted at 30, I said, damn, that'd have been another shooter. Desmond Bain from TCU can really shoot as well. So I'd have been like, that's fine. Have 2 more shooters, 3 more shooters. And, you can get rid of Wanamaker. We're saying I'm doing today, thankfully. They still found a way to keep Semi Ojeleye. Oh, God. I was just like, no, I don't stop me now. I couldn't believe that they extended an offer Sam, and I said, what are you doing? So you trade Poirier, thank God, because he did nothing. Like, there's nobody that's done less in a year than Vincent Poirier. Semi Ojeleye, I don't know why he got brought back. Wanamaker, I'm glad he's gone. Hopefully Pritchard could come in and take his minutes. But I'm fine with them bringing on Tremont Waters. But it's insane to me, man, that, like I said, that guy is still here. But like I said, hopefully he has a plan. But I want to say this to Bobby, because Bobby said, he's gone. He was out of here. That's not for certain. And I want fans that listen to this understand
he's
this.
an unrestricted free agent, right?
Yes, he is. But it's not out the realm of possibility that he still does a sign and trade. And guess what? He, in some slight chance, whether it's 5, 10, 15%, he can still sign here and maybe do what we wanted to do with Al Horford last year, where he signs for a little bit less. Now, granted, he knew he wasn't going to get 34 out there. Now, is there a team that made, like we had a mystery team last year who ended up being in Philadelphia, give him 109, 110 million? Who knows? If he does, hey, by all means, wipe our hands.
If someone wants to do something stupid like that, that's 100%
right.
fine,
But I don't think that's the case, though. I don't think that's the case.
Look at the 3 teams pursuing him. It's Atlanta, the Knicks, and the Hornets. If there's 3 teams out there that are going to give Gordon Hayward over $100 million, those are the 3.
So the only team out those 3 that you said that I think have a legit chance of maybe landing him actually is Charlotte, because in 2014 he had a chance to sign a 4-year deal for $63 million, but then Utah matched it. Then Utah matched it, right? And then in 2017 when he was coming to us, he still spoke with Charlotte. He spoke with Miami. He spoke with some other teams, and then eventually.
And Michael Jordan's not a very good GM, so I could picture him terrible GM Hayward.
Right.
So.
He signed Terry Rozier for $20 million a year, so why not?
And he drafted one of the Ball brothers, so that wasn't very smart either.
Yeah, I mean that remains to be seen, but I feel like he clearly he likes Gordon Hayward as a player, clearly, because that's why he keeps looking at him. But we'll see. So I think that's the only team that could do that, but it's not. I want to make clear it's not out the realm of possibilities that he finds his way back in a Celtic uniform, or he says, you know what, I want to go here. Can you do a sign and trade and just go from there? You just never know.
Well, I also want to take this time to, just to make sure that everyone out there knows, I love hosting because I get to be a dick. So here's what I'm going to do. On the Sunday show that you can listen to and you can find the link for in the show notes, I believe DK Sizzle Dave Clarke says, if the Celtics pick at 14, you and I, all of us, should be out on this season. Are you?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to win. Like, I don't think we're going to win a championship with Naismith, the rookie coming in to try and fill that hole. I think it's been very frustrating watching the Celtics be potentially 1 to 2, but really 1 piece away from winning a championship, and blowing an opportunity like last season is going to really hurt our momentum, man. It's yeah, okay, you can believe in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and Bobby, you definitely believe in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, but those guys are young, and they might stop believing in themselves if they keep coming up short in the Eastern Conference Finals. Those guys are on Twitter too. They see everybody being these guys are also rans. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. It's a lot harder to equate your potential when you're living it. You know what I mean? Jason Tatum's basically gone up at the rate that we expected him to. Jaylen Brown has gone up a little bit more at the rate that we expected him to, but the Celtics aren't really doing them any favors. Look, I love Danny Ainge, and I love when he fleeces other teams and stuff, and it's fun, but now we're in a position where nobody wants to deal with us, and Boston's not. And I know this is a tough to swallow pill for a lot of Boston sports fans, but Boston's not a very desirable market in basketball. Nope. Not a lot of people want to come to Boston just because it's Boston. The reason LeBron James is playing in Los Angeles, he might tell you it's because LA, Lakers, Kobe, legacy. It's because he had a house in Los Angeles and his office was in Los Angeles and his kids were going to a fancy private school in Los Angeles. LA is the place to be. So that's why, it's easy to get people to play for the Lakers. I mean, they can even get people to play for the Clippers, and that organization's a joke, especially comparatively to the Celtics. So when you already have that, and then you have a situation where you've built as much as you can basically build from young players. We've had bad drafts overall in the past 10 years. Yes, there's been good draft picks, but that's when we've had high draft picks, Tatum and Brown, right? Marcus Smart. But I don't know if anyone remembers Fab Melo, not disrespecting his name. I know the guy's dead, but He wasn't good. You know what I mean? Like all the other higher draft picks and first round draft picks we made weren't good. So fine. We've built this young core. You have to bring in veterans to propel them to where they need to be. At what point do we start saying, okay, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can't do it by themselves? Like, yes, I agree with Bobby's always point of they're still so young. They're still so young. It's like, right, but they're not ever going to get to a point where they can win without a big man. It's just never going to happen. Like if we get dominant and like, okay, for example, like the Heat, I didn't expect us to lose to the Heat because I remember saying on the show that we had guards that were as fast as their guards and we could bring guys off the bench to like do stuff against their guards. I thought Brad Wanamaker was going to come out and play like veteran defensive basketball against Tyler Hero and Gordon Dragic, but that just didn't happen. So we get Peyton Pritchard. He comes in like, if we had someone like I think he might be last season, I think we get past the Heat, you know? So yes, I agree with you, Ray. It's an upgrade at that bench position. But these little incremental changes in basketball, like if you're watching the New England Patriots, it's great to sign like a really good like third defensive back and like he can really fill a hole. Basketball is about your best three players. It's always going to be about your best three players. You can change little incremental things and like help yourself to win. But most of the time, if their big three is better than your big three, or their big four is better than your big three, or whatever it is, they're going to beat you. The best player in the series gives that franchise gives that team a huge advantage. So we don't have a big three right now. If you look at how Kemba Walker played in last year's playoffs, like, and he's a guard, and you know my feelings on guards and winning championships. The fact is, we need the third piece of the big three, and it needs to be a big man. And if we can't do that, we're not going to win. Am I still going to watch to answer your question in a long form way, Mike? Yes, I am out on this team winning a championship. We're not going to win a championship with what we have right now. We're just not. Like, unless some sort of freak occurrence happens and Jason Tatum decides that he's like the second coming of Kobe Bryant next season and he starts playing absolutely out of his mind. And even then, we still have to go through Giannis and an improved Bucks team. We still have to go through the Lakers, who, by the way, I'm borderline happy we didn't see in the finals last year because that would have been embarrassing. And we still have to go through Bam Adebayo healthy again next year, which we now realize is like a thing we need to build for. Like, yes, are the 76ers out of the way? Totally. Like, are they going to be anything? No. But what about Brooklyn? You know what I mean? Everyone around us is getting better, and no one will deal with us because of Danny. So yeah, I'm out on this rebuild for sure. I'm out on this team for sure because we can't win with this personnel we have right here. I'm sorry if that sounds down, and I'm usually the ultimate Celtics optimist, but like I'm just speaking truth to it, you know?
The only thing is like, it's just like I can't fathom giving up on these two right now. I get that we know they haven't done it these past 2 years, but like these guys, if you think back to the best players in the NBA right now, these guys are a shell of what's to come. You know what I mean? These guys are 22, 23 years old. And I know I keep chirping that same thing over and over again, but I don't think that we can say that they can't do it because they don't have a big man, because they've never had a big man. You know what I mean?
Like, for 1 second, because like you're talking like they're going to stay. Like what happens if Jason Tatum gets to the end of this contract that he's on and he just decides that he needs to go somewhere else? You know what I mean? Like, again, this is a market that has to be taken advantage of quickly. You have to strike while the iron's hot in Boston. That's why we were able to win 08 to 2012. We should have had 3, we always say, but at least we struck while the iron was hot. We did it all on one contract for all those guys. You know what I mean? For the most part. So, you know what I mean? It's like Jason Tatum might decide that he wants to be Kobe Bryant and go to the Lakers once LeBron leaves. Like, you just have to get it going now. I don't think you can bank on Jason Tatum at 27 because he might be playing somewhere else.
Listen, I can't disagree with that. And I also don't disagree with the fact that Danny is kind of fucking us over right now when it comes to this team. That part I won't disagree with. The only thing I just can't get over is the bringing in. So, and it gets back to the James Harden point as before, is bringing in someone that is going to change the chemistry of the whole team. You know what I mean? Like, I just love Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, the way they play basketball. And I really feel like if if we had a legitimate big man in that Miami series, it's a whole different series. Because guess what? Bam Adebayo doesn't make that block because he's not feeling comfortable. He's not feeling strong because there's someone down low chirping at him, banging him. He is not going to be able to make that block the way he does if there's someone down there just giving it to him the entire fourth quarter. He's not going to have that energy. So I just feel like you bring someone in here like that, it changes everything. And we are a legitimate championship threat. Are we going to be able to do that at this point? I'm not sure. But I'm just not ready to give up on this core until I see a full basketball team around them. You know what I mean? Like until we get that big man and we actually see what they can do, Daniel Tice is not the answer. And that's who we had going against Bam Adebayo in the fourth quarter in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like that's a fucking joke. You know what I mean? Like you can't say that they don't have it when that's what you're giving them. You know what I mean? Like we always say, this guy can't do it.
But you understand, Bobby, with the team as it was currently constituted, you said that this team had championship DNA. All this team does is have Eastern Conference championship DNA. So are you still to believe that just because of this core that they can still win? Because based on what we've seen, and I'll let you answer this too, there will always be an obstacle that they cannot overcome. And in the Miami series, it was Tyler Hero having an amazing series, but it was also Bam Adebayo, and they don't have an answer for that. So if this is it, what if they're coaching up Robert Williams? What if they think it's going to be taco time finally? If either of those two things happen or don't happen, I mean, if they do happen, they can go further. Like let's say Robert Williams develops and he doesn't just jump out of his shoes every time someone up fakes him. But you've always been the person that says championship DNA. Now you sound like you're down on them. That they can only win if they're being given, based on the team that they're given. So which is it? Are they championship level contenders or and winners, or are they not?
I think that those two do have the championship caliber. They can be the best two players on a championship team. And I just think that they haven't reached that level of development yet. Can they do it without that center at this point? No. And I do agree with you on that. They cannot do it without that center at this point. They can't.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing though. But see, to me at 14, now granted, Nesmith to me because he's a shooter, that was a need, right? And it's funny because Austin Ames came on, I think, BST, which is Boston Sports Tonight, was like, oh, like you don't draft for need because need is a bad evaluator. Well, clearly you drafted for need because who you drafted, you needed. So you needed a shooter in Nesmith, you needed a shooter in Pritchard. But what it let me know is that they valued someone that can shoot over someone that could protect the rim, right? Because at 14, I'm gonna tell you who was still on the board then that they could have brought on. So Precious Achiuwa, who got drafted by Miami Heat, who we talked about with Joe Sway. We talked about him. So he falls to 6 more spots to Miami. Daniel Oturu, who's from Minnesota, got drafted by the Knicks, who had, we'll get into that about who won the draft. New York had a really good draft on Thursday night. I mean, on Wednesday night, they had a really good draft. So I just think that they may not look at the big man position like how we look at it as fans because of people that grew up in the 90s and grew up in the in the 2000s. We saw a Shaq win. We saw an Alonzo Mourning. We saw Patrick Ewing. He didn't win the championship, but he got to the finals. We saw those guys dominate and win. So now it's still etched in our mind. Like, okay, like you got to have a guy like that to win. But to be honest, we could maybe give us someone like a JaVale McGee or someone like a Dwight Howard that's now. Like, granted, they now won, but give us someone like that. You don't need someone to come in there and get 20 and 10. And I think we're hooked on that, and I understand that because of what we've seen in the past from dominant big men. But if we can even get what KG gave us when he got here, not from the testing standpoint, but even just from like a 17-9, someone like even what Paul Gasol used to do too in LA, like that's what you need, or maybe even a little less than that. But I just think that they look at their current situation and say, you know what, Brad Stevens wants to play positionless basketball. He talks about that all the time. And I just think that they don't look at the center position as something that they have to fill, because if that was the case, Precious Achiuwa would be a Boston Celtic and not Pritchard or Neesmith. It just wouldn't happen. Or maybe they like Jalen Smith from Maryland, but Jalen Smith went higher than I thought he would have at 10 to Phoenix. So, yeah. So that's what happens. So that's how I see it.
I do think that Neesmith is something that's a role and a player type that they've been trying to fill since pretty much last year. They wanted Harrow. They wanted Harrow in Boston. He was their guy. And I've said that so many times to you guys that's why Harrow hurt so much in that Eastern Conference Finals, is because it was the guy they wanted. So the fact that they were able to fill that need, because I do think that he is that type of player, in Neesmith, that he can fill that role. So that's why I do like that pick a lot, is because it is a role that they were trying to fill. And it obviously is something that we absolutely need, because it is what was missing last year in the finals. This is another piece.
So Dave, what's your biggest takeaway from the Celtics draft? I mean, what you said, you've talked to us a little bit that it was a good one, but like, how do you really feel moving forward about the way that they drafted?
I think it's tough, like, it's like the problems that we had in the playoffs last season are still there. They haven't gone anywhere. Is it Naismith or Neesmith? Because I want to be saying it right.
Neesmith. Neesmith.
Okay.
I keep wanting to say Naismith just because of the Hall of Fame.
Fine, whatever.
Yeah,
I'm all
well,
aboard.
I mean, no, that's fine. We're projecting and manifesting that he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
That's
it, man.
Right.
That's
I want to
all
get
it
his
is.
name right, because he's obviously going to be the best player in the NBA in 5 years. But listen,
Exactly.
The thing is that, like, I don't know how to play 3D chess like Danny Ainge. Like, maybe he knows something I don't know about the big position. You know what I mean? Maybe he knows something I don't know about the 5 spot. Like, maybe he thinks that we could have lived with Bam Adebayo if we had an answer for Tyler Hero. Like, maybe he thinks it's a freak occurrence that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum missed as many shots as they did in those 2 series. You know what I mean? Because it kind of is. The way that we drafted, I think, actually does answer one big question, which is, how do we get Marcus Smart to stop shooting the ball so much? Like, the amount of there's a finite amount of shots to go around on a basketball team, and the thing that everyone got mad about Marcus Smart about is that he was like taking kind of dumb shots. But I think that there was some carryover from previous seasons, because he might have been shooting too much and they might have not been going in. But I think he was taking the shots he was told to take, and I think that he, being the first guard off the bench or starting, depending on like what was happening, needs to take those shots. Like that position has to be scoring 12 to 15 points a game. You know what I mean? So if we have Neesmith to come in now and take that scoring load off Marcus Smart and just say, listen, Marcus, you can take wide open threes. Okay. No matter what, you can take wide open threes, because like anyone that shoots the percentage that Marcus Smart shoots with, the confidence that Marcus Smart shoots with, and the clutch factor that Marcus Smart shoots with, should be allowed to take open threes. That's fine. What we can stop from happening now is stopping on a dime on the 3-point line in transition and looking for Tatum or Neesmith. So yes, like, it's a good draft, and I see it being good going forward, but I'm just really worried that we're going to lose by getting bullied again. And like, if we're going to lose, that's one thing, you know what I mean? Like, it's fine to lose. It's okay. You know, like, I've seen them lose in the playoffs, and it's a very like other fan base thing to be like, oh, you always lose in the Eastern Conference Finals. It's like, okay, cool. Like, Charlotte Hornets fans, like, conference finals isn't in your vocabulary. So like, don't even talk to me. So like, there's levels to this. Like, yes, we're mad about having like a very good basketball team at this point, but I don't want to keep plateauing in that way. So if we've decided through this conversation that Danny has shifted the plateau and climbed us onto the next rock by solving every problem except the big man problem as of right now, then I don't think we could have done much better. You know,
there is something that I want to ask you, because you mentioned it in what you just said, and you said that you don't know how to play 3D chess like Danny Ainge. Are we sure that he knows how to play that game too?
Yes. Well, the thing is that I do think he's still like a top 3 GM, or maybe top 5. But the thing is that Danny's never really been like that good at drafting. Like, he's a good drafter, and he's really good at like moving around the board. And I think a lot of people were like maybe expecting him to move around the board, but like, actually that hasn't happened in a while. You know, it's been a few years since we've like traded picks or packaged picks. Like, again, that might be because people won't deal with him, but he's still a very good GM, and he still sees things that we don't see. like it would be a ridiculous take, right? And it's for anyone to sit here right now and say like it's time for Danny Ainge to move on. Like that's absolutely absurd because of all the reasons Bobby says. Like this team hasn't. You have to let a GM build his team and then see if that team fails or succeeds. And if he does, go ahead, Ray.
So I have to interject only because you say it about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. How long are we going to say they're young?
That's what I'm saying, though. Like I'm saying the same thing.
How long do you let Danny build then? Because I mean, damn, he's been here for 17 years, one championship, 2 finals appearances.
That's my worry. I'm worried that he's buying himself time. I'm worried that he's buying himself time.
Right, but at some point we have to say, well, then Danny, see you later too. Then
that's not the point, right? We're not at that point right now.
This core, I get that the Kyrie thing happened, and honestly, when it comes to Tatum and Brown's development, the Kyrie year in between the Eastern Conference Finals appearance with LeBron and last year is thrown out to me. You know what I mean? I don't count that against them whatsoever because guess what? When Kyrie actually left, when he didn't play, they actually played really well. And that's when Jaylen Brown got up to speed. So like, I don't count that against them and I never will. So that's why I'm just like, I don't think that we're giving them the time that they actually deserve. You know what I mean? That's where my head is at. It's like, these guys are 23, 22 years old. Like, right. Think about how much more mature you were at 25, 26.
I don't think that that's Ray's question. I think how old are they in basketball years? Because like they've been to the playoffs a lot of times.
Be year 4 for Tatum, and then this is be year 5 for Jaylen Brown. But
by the time year 5 rolled around, I'm not saying now. Don't jump all over me here. Just bear with me on this point. By the time year 5 rolled around for LeBron James, it was, is he ever going to get it done? That was the narrative. Now, of course, I'm not saying that Jason Tatum is LeBron James. I'm not saying that, but 5 years was, I don't think he's ever going to do it. And then the rebuttal was, well, it took Jordan 6. And it was like all these arguments over and over again about whether or not LeBron James was that guy. Now, where we are now, we know that he is. So maybe it was unfair to start leveling that criticism at him 5 years in, but it's not unheard of to start questioning people 4 or 5 years into the career. Is that their ceiling? You know what I mean? Like LeBron James, we all remember that narrative, right? Just as a quick aside. He got to the finals against the Mavericks. What happened? He got destroyed in the post. That team got destroyed in the post by Dirk Nowitzki. And and Dirk Nowitzki, they had no answer to him. So what did LeBron do? He goes, okay, I'm this size, so I can go learn how to take a turnaround jump shot and defend in the post. He does that in the summer. He comes back. They win a championship, right? Is there things that Jason?
He went to Miami.
No, but that's what you're saying.
They lost to Miami.
He lost his first year in Miami because Dirk, they had no answer for Dirk Nowitzki because Chris Bosh was soft. So the great player though, no slight against him.
Everyone always forgets about that championship. I feel like
I do
totally because it was kind of like a foregone conclusion. It was kind of like, oh great, we're so glad the Mavericks finally won one, and then it was like, haha, LeBron, haha, but then they went on to win, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, LeBron added to his game and came back and he won a bunch of championships. So. Is Jason Tatum that player? Can Jason Tatum, I think, let me sum it up. When Rayshawn asked me the question, how long are we going to say that they're young for? How long is Tatum going to ride that? How long is he going to ride that narrative? Because he doesn't act like the guy for me at least. I think he wants to be on a committee-based team. I don't think he wants to be like that dude. I don't think he wants to be the leader because I think he's had opportunities to prove that he is. And I think in his head somewhere, because of the narrative, he's kind of going, I'm still young, he doesn't have that same pressure that a superstar LeBron might have, so he's kind of buying into his own narrative.
Right. So so that's a valid point. So, because remember when Tatum came out in 2017, I feel like the comparisons to Paul Pierce came out right away. Right. So Draper was saying it, Scalabrine was saying it. Park was talking about it, just looking at, as a natural scorer, he's someone that's going to get 25 in this league. And they were right. He averaged 23, 7, and 5 this year. Get it. So he's right at that cusp. He's getting there. And it leads into the point I'm going to make. This really is Pierce and Walker. Tatum is Pierce. Jaylen Brown is Antoine Walker. Now, because Jaylen Brown is vocal. Now he comes off quiet, on the court, but Jaylen Brown is very vocal, and
he's a leader. He's
but
definitely
he's definitely the de facto leader of that team, right? So, I think Tatum will be what Pierce was eventually when Pierce kind of became more vocal and say, "Hey, this is my team, my city." I hope it doesn't take for him to win in year 10 like Paul did, but
What happened with Paul Pierce, we have to remember, is that KG and Ray Allen came in and said to him, "You're the leader." They decided that, not him.
Right. So I guess maybe now, do you have to make a trade with somebody and they'll come in, they'll say, "Hey, Tatum, you're the guy that's been here. You're the guy that's going to bring us here." But for what Danny Ainge though, right? I feel like, because, obviously he's been there 17 years now, and, he's had some picks that hasn't worked, some picks that hasn't worked, obviously. That's just the nature of the game, or nature of the beast, I should say. I still feel like he's chasing that 2004 draft every year. So just for the listeners that don't remember or wasn't around in 2004. So in that year, they had 3 first-round picks. It was Tony Allen from Oklahoma State, Al Jefferson from he came out of high school. I forget what high school, but he came out of Mississippi in high school, and Delonte West, who was part of a phenomenal backcourt. St. Joe's with Jameer Nelson. So stay tuned for that college show. That's a future plug. So yeah, like Joe, they had a really good draft that year, and what people forget, that draft really brought us the championship in 2008. Because without those pieces being there, Tony Allen being a great defender, Delonte West had a decent career over in Seattle. Then when he got to Cleveland or whatever, in Dallas as well before he retired. That 2004 draft won us the championship, right? And then next year, you get Ryan Gomes out of Providence College. You get casual name drop there, right? So a lot of those pieces they had there in those 04, 05, and 06, Rondo getting drafted at 21 out of Kentucky back in 06 that was traded from Phoenix.
Got a little lucky there too. Nobody thought Roger.
Yeah, no, right. But I'm saying like those first 3 or 4 drafts that he had really set up the 08 championship, because those were the pieces that we had in order to get the championship. So now maybe what I'm thinking is, now it's just dawned on me, maybe that's how he sees Grant Williams, Carson Edwards, eventually Romeo Langford, Neesmith, and now Gary Pritchett and Tremont Waters and Taco Fall. Maybe he sees this guy like, look, we have to develop these guys, because if we develop them, we can flip that into a guy that's really star ready, and is going to put Tatum and Brown and whoever else is there over the hump. And then, we get Banner 18 like we've been longing for since 2008. So maybe that's what happens.
It sounds like that there's like this overarching theme where we all think that if a championship does not come within the next, let's say 2 or 3 years, that Tatum might do what LeBron did from Cleveland and go elsewhere to find one. Right.
Different narrative and different situation.
Well, yeah, LeBron was the only guy in Cleveland, and he would have been the reason why that they won. They wouldn't build around him. I get it, but how many years do we have?
It's funny that I never even thought of the Tatum. You guys saying that Tatum's not that guy and he doesn't take that lead. Like, until you guys said that, honestly, I never really even thought about that. But honestly, you're kind of like, I'm not turning on Tatum at all, but that is something that I would like to see from him next year. I feel like this year is a big year for Jason Tatum. Is coming out of last year.
How often are we going to say that though? Like,
but I'm just saying, like,
the thing is that like when we were all talking, like we were all basically yelling at each other throughout the entire NBA playoffs, the last NBA playoffs. And this is what emerged to me. Like, I love Jason Tatum. I love having Jason Tatum. I loved post All-Star break Jason Tatum and like how much of a level he went up. And like, it was awesome to see him do that. And basically what I think we should do. Now, I don't have a GM job, and I'm just on a podcast with you knuckleheads. But like what I would do, honestly, is before his potential drops, before his value drops,
move him,
trade him. And like the thing, and what, like, while he still has some like some movement in his contract, while it's still basically like a very, very, very healthy contract for any team to take on, go and trade him. Cause like the things you could get for him right now, like are so crazy. Now, does that mean that we won't eventually regret that? Like Jason Tatum eventually becomes the Jason Tatum that we know he's probably going to, and then like he wins a couple of championships and we're mad? Sure. But it doesn't mean he would have stuck around anyway, is what I keep saying. And like, if you want to build a team around a leader. Every time you've played this game with your friends, every time you've gone, okay, who do you start? Who do you build a team around basketball wise? Who do you start with? Nobody ever says LeBron first. Everyone always says Michael or Kobe. Why? Because they're in that caliber of talent, yes, but they're dogs, like they're leaders, like they have that killer instinct. That's what. Now, did LeBron develop that a little bit more, like later in life? Totally. But like Kobe Bryant in another life could have been a professional assassin. So like, there's no, like it's for me, it's a little bit about mentality, and I'm not sure. Like, I know for a fact that Jaylen Brown has a better mentality and a mentality you can build a team around leadership wise. And I'm not sure Tatum is that much better than him talent wise. I'm really not. And like, also, it'd be kind of nice, and this is a small aside, like not really to my larger point, it'd be kind of nice to not have your best player just bitch to the refs instead of get back on defense every 10 seconds. And that's on Brad Stevens a little bit too. Like, I'm a little concerned about Brad at this point too, because like there's now this kind of emerging narrative that he can't really control or coach or whatever word you want to use superstars. And like, that's scary to me,
So I do want to go back to one thing that I think is definitely a good point you guys made a little bit ago. And that is the fact that when KG and Ray Allen came into this town, they were not coming in thinking that they were the leaders. They knew this was Paul Pierce's team and that this was Paul Pierce's team to lead. And that was the number one reason that I don't want a head case in here like James Harden or like a Kyrie. If we're going to bring a star in here, that's the piece of the puzzle. It's like you guys say we need a big three. The big three member that comes in here needs to be someone that knows that this is Tatum and Brown's team, because I think that's what brings us to that next level.
That's the issue, though. It can't be Tatum and Brown's team.
But it is.
It has to be one of the other. It has to be one or the other.
But I don't know if it does, because when they made that Eastern Conference final run, though, it was both of them, and they both got the credit for it, and they both loved it. I don't think it needs to be one or the other. I really don't.
Right. So okay. So to that point, Bobby, he's here, but he's not healthy. It's Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker came in and said, Kemba came in and said, hey, these young guys have to lead us. I'm here to help and be that guy. But Kemba said, look, when they played with the USC team last year, he said, hey, these guys are the future. I'm here to help nourish these guys and get them further. He was the perfect guy to follow Kyrie Irving. Perfect guy in every aspect of the word. Like, is he Kyrie light? Sure. But from a leadership standpoint, from a character standpoint, and once again, he had some games this year where it was like, oh, okay, like if he's on, this team is very good. And
okay, but in basketball, your leader needs to be your best player. It needs to be your best player.
He was at times this year. He was.
Okay, but he wasn't when it counted. And you can't win a championship with a guard as your best player either. So like that's all well and good. Kemba Walker can be the second best leader on the team, but unless one of I'm 100% sure that unless one of Tatum or Brown becomes the emotional leader on the team, the only exception I've ever seen is Draymond Green, and that was such a weirdly unique situation because he was more of a lightning rod than a leader. He just sort of took all the pressure on his back and like was by far like not even close to the best player on that team, but he let Clay and Steph do their thing. But and the Golden State Warriors are the exception to every rule that I bring up on these shows, because like, yes, you won with your best player being a guard, except for the Durant year. And then, leadership, Draymond, all that stuff. But if we're going like classic basketball rules, did you not cringe a little bit? Like you half liked it, but you half cringed when like Kemba was going around tapping everybody's chest, going like, check your heart, check your heart. It's like, no, don't check your heart. Smash this team. Check your heart when you get to the finals and you have to play a team that's actually decent. Don't check your heart when you're like down when you shouldn't be. That's not the leader that I want, especially on a Celtics team. It's not check your heart. It's like, hey, guys, wake the fuck up. Okay. Because like we should be ahead right now in this series. And there was none of that. That's like,
so that's Marcus Smart. That's the guy on the team.
Exactly.
That's him. But
I wouldn't want to lose him either. I wouldn't want to lose Marcus either. But I'll tell you something. If we were talking about James Harden, I would trade the TD Garden for James Harden tomorrow. So like whatever. Like you can say like, oh, I don't want a head case to come in here. It's like it doesn't matter. Like if he scores the points he needs to score, and you keep one of those pieces, then you're good.
We try to tell Bobby 32 points is hard to find.
I just think that's a nightmare. You're just opening up a
he's a nightmare for defense too, man.
I tried to get the state of Massachusetts. I tried to get the state of Massachusetts to offer Western Mass to New York for Jeter once, but it didn't.
See, I would have done that. I would have done that in a heartbeat.
It's like you can have the Berkshires. Just give us Jeter.
Yo, absolutely. Take the Berkshires. Springfield on.
For me, what I noticed this year, especially in that Heat series, right, is that they had the lead in the second half, mostly in either the third or fourth quarter of every game that they lost. If you have a KG, or you have someone that is, or a Paul Pierce, right, that is the actual leader, do they let that happen? No, I say no. I say that the reason why you see it happen now is because there is this kind of this. Well, is it Jalen's team? Is it Jason's team? And I think what we've realized is Jaylen Brown off the court. He's intelligent. He's very vocal, but for some reason on the court in the locker room, it feels like he defers to Tatum. So either this year, Jaylen Brown needs to take that over.
I don't know about that.
Well,
I think
is.
Jaylen Brown thinks he's just as good as Jason Tatum, and I
mean,
think he's trying to keep
defers for a leadership role.
I think, yeah, I agree. I think when he's on the court, Brown definitely defers. I do think that. Yeah.
So what do we do? So either this year he stands up and they can actually get to that next level, or does Jason Tatum? I guess for me, as it's currently constituted based on the draft that we saw, last night. Or Wednesday. This is put up or shut up time for both of them. Either one of those two has to say, "This is now my team. You are number two. Like you are Scotty."
It's really simple. It's really simple. If we want to figure out who's going to do it, who was the guy we all saw? Who was the guy who had the ball in his hands when the game was on the line in the playoffs last year? It was Jason Tatum. And let me tell you something. It was pathetic what he did with the ball most of the time. Like really pathetic. Like that late clock bullshit ISO that like he should be good at, but he's just not. And that's another thing that annoyed me about Brad in that playoffs.
We wasn't saying that in February though. We weren't saying that. That's what gets me hot about that. Nah, like when he found out that he was an all-star and he took that jump, how do you think he was getting that 36-point game against Portland, the 41-point game?
That's the regular season, though. It doesn't mean
no. But what I'm saying, I'm speaking to the point about.
But that's my James Harden argument. It's the same shit. It's the same
thing.
No,
but when defenses get more, I guess you guys say sophisticated.
They start playing defense in the playoffs.
Yeah, more so in the playoffs. But listen, Jason Tatum can score whenever he wants to. Let's kill that narrative. So to say otherwise, if you're saying otherwise,
I think he can create a shot whenever he wants to. I think that's his biggest upside. I don't think he can score whenever he wants to. If he could score whenever he wants to, we would have gotten to the finals last season.
Right, but think about this. We harp on the play in that same game one where he shoots a 30-footer. What are you doing? And over time, he does what we wanted him to do. He drives to the hole. His shit gets punched by Bam Adebayo. So you can't win either way. So it's like, okay, you shoot. Who cares about that shot? But you shoot that shot, fine, whatever. If it goes in, oh my God, what a jump shot! JT has the biggest ball since Sam Cassell. Whatever. But he drives to the hoop. He gets blocked. He's out there missing shot. Like there's no in between. So yeah, okay, fine. It's a lesson learned. But I'm telling you, you cannot teach height. You can't teach that type of skill. When you were 6'9" and you have that type of handle, because his handle has gotten better. Yes, it has. It's not where it needs to be yet, but it's gotten better. And that sidestep, like James Harden, is unguardable. So the more he does it, the better he'll become. And I promise you, you'll see him become a 26, 27 point scorer. If not next year, at least in another year or two. It's coming. Him and Jalen, it's coming.
Kobe Bryant doesn't have any of those Bam Adebayo type blocks on his highlight reel. That's all I'm saying. One
thing I think we're all forgetting about this team too is the Kemba that we had in the Eastern Conference Finals was not the Kemba that we had before that. And in the series against who did he hit that game-winning shot? Who do we play before the Heat? Toronto, right? In the Toronto series,
your favorite team, Bobby.
Your team, Bobby.
Yeah. I blacked that whole era out. I don't even. But so remember who was the guy when it came down to that last shot? And there was no doubt in any of our minds that Kemba had that.
1,000 times better than Toronto, which was what I was trying to tell you the entire playoffs.
But I'm just saying Kemba was healthy at that point because he had sat out those games. His knee was feeling okay, and when
his
came
injury
down,
is weird too. Isn't that scary?
It is weird. Yes, his knee injury is.
You never like a weird injury that they're not telling you enough about.
It is true, but it was his shot. You know what I mean? When it came down to it, he had
Kemba's
that
clutch.
exactly.
Kemba's clutch as
So,
hell.
so that's what I mean. Like, I think that yes, we're hating on Tatum a lot.
He still
but
doesn't get the
when-
ball at the end of the game, though. Tatum does.
when he has Kemba, when he has that guy to take that last shot, like I was just saying, when he have that third guy, like you said, you need a big three. I agree, but we're not seeing the full big three, and I think that that's something that we forgot about at the end of last year. Is that's not
I
the
think you're
Celtics,
talking yourself into some stuff right now.
but that's not the Celtics that were the team that was supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like we're talking about, let's blow it up, let's do this. Like it's a lot of it.
No one
is
said let's
just
blow it up.
You said let's blow it up.
No, I didn't.
You specifically said let's blow it up.
You just
No, I
said
didn't.
trade
I
Tatum.
didn't say those words.
You
I just said trade Tatum. That's not blowing it up.
that's
one
pretty
guy.
much blowing it up.
I mean, there's one guy. I the reason why I think we can trade Tatum is because we have Jaylen Brown. I think we have two of the same guy, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing that right now. Anyways, granted, I think if another year or two has like this, then you
Well,
have
once he
Contract
loses
year,
value?
contract year. Talk to
no,
me.
but no,
Yeah,
but this,
contract year.
No,
Talk
this is
to
the thing
me.
though. He's up for the max like Jaylen Brown was last year, and he's most likely going to sign that because it's going to be what Devin Booker got. He got that 5-year, I think it's like 158. So he's signing that. So, this duo is going to be together. So let's get that out of our heads. They're not trading Jalen and Jason. So let's kill that narrative.
Cut
right
to 24 hours later.
Right.
Danny Ainge.
Right.
Never sleep on Danny Ainge.
Right. Dun-dun-dun. Right. So,
or sleep. That's the narrative of Daddy I'll never get over. I'm sorry, Ray. But how much of a dick tease Danny Ainge really is. You know, it's every fucking year is the same goddamn thing. We're getting this guy. Look at this blockbuster we're going to do. He's got to be.
Well, he wants to.
He's got to be like the meat
tries.
of the Slack chat where he's just blowing up everyone's phone. You know what I mean? Just like message after message. Because people like all the talk is Danny's
but
going to make this move.
it's hard. It's hard because it's
Nothing.
just like, you know, Billy King in a negative way really changed everything.
Yeah.
If Billy King didn't take half of that deal, we're not talking about maybe him pulling the trigger. Because once again, early like the first half of Danny's tenure here as the GM was, again, you know, you got the you know, I remember the Ricky Davis trade at the time. I remember the obviously, you know, the Ray Allen trade, KG
And also,
trade.
by the way, the Brooklyn
bringing
trade
Rasheed
for-
Wallace,
the
Jason
Brooklyn
Tatum.
trade for Brooklyn at the time.
Oh, it
like,
made sense. It made perfect sense.
It made sense for them. And when it was that Russian owner guy decided,
Mikhail Prokhorov,
decided that he didn't want to pay the luxury tax anymore, and he was like out on owning a basketball team. Like the way that they were going with that Brooklyn trade, like with the veteran contracts, like and the contract dump that they got, and what it turned out those picks even really turned into, with the exception of Jason Tatum, like it wasn't as big of a fleece as we as Celtic like if you're a Brooklyn fan, you could make the case that it wasn't as big of a fleece as like ESPN says that it is. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's because of what
At the time, obviously, it turned out to not work out.
But I mean, the next year we realized that
They also have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving right now, and we still haven't won a championship.
Right, but I was pissed. I was pissed that Marcus Smart was the very first pick after that next year. Like, I was pissed.
I was not.
I was like,
happy with it.
I was like, wait a minute, you're getting the guy that can't shoot at Oklahoma State to replace Rondo.
The guy that kicked someone on the sideline.
No, I didn't care about that. That happened. I was like, whatever. But I'm like, wait a minute, you're replacing Rondo, who, you know, everybody says that can't shoot, with another guy who can't shoot. Really, like this is what we're doing. And then, you know, you get James Young, because James Young had a decent tournament run, but James Young, by far, maybe outside of J.R. Giddens, was like the worst pick that Danny Ainge has made, you know, since he's been here. Or not J.R. Giddens, Gabe Pruitt, sorry, out of USC. My God. Gabe Pruitt was just awful. He played one more minute than all of us in the NBA. Maybe scored one more point than all of us in the NBA too. So congrats to 2008 champion Gabe Pruitt. There'll never be another one like you. But
I guess my question would be, now that we're here, because I think DK just brought up a pretty good point that I do want to get to other things that happened in the draft. You know, now that all the picks have been made, you know, was that Brooklyn deal, like you just said, was it a big fleece job? Because now, as it's currently constituted, we're here with no more rings than they had in that time, and they have Kyrie, they have Kevin Durant, and they're probably the favorite in the East now, right?
Well, that was pre this like player control, player dominance era that really emerged. And I don't think there was any way. No, totally. I get what you're saying. It's just there was no way to really predict that. Basically, players were just going to decide the fates of franchises and like where they wanted to play and what they wanted to do. And that's becoming more and more true as like time goes on, which I actually don't hate. You know what I mean? Like I always said in all sports leagues, I'd rather see players get paid and players get benefited than like, fat cat owners or, who always turn out to be shitty people anyway. And like, it's fine for me. It just, again, like I brought up at the start of the show, it just doesn't benefit Boston because we have a history of not treating our players very well. We have a history of racism and shitty segregation and bad crowds and not taking the Celtics seriously before they won. And look, I think the Celtics is a great franchise. And I think I love Boston. And obviously, like, I'm on this podcast and I love our market, but the harsh reality is like, you're not going to get Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant to just walk into the Celtics. It's just never going to happen. So, and like even getting Kyrie Irving, there was like a narrative of his dad playing college ball here and like all this different stuff. So it's like that narrative like fed into it. But, Kevin Durant's just, I mean, we already saw it happen. We thought we could get him and he went and signed for Golden State instead. So the best we can do is draft, the best we can do is take draft picks off of, this could change tomorrow, but the best we can do is take draft picks off a ton of draft picks off a team like Brooklyn, do what OKC's doing right now and just hope for the best.
But that's how it's always been. Like before 2016, when we signed Al Horford, the biggest free agent signing that Boston ever had was Travis Knight in the late 90s. Tell me, I bet you don't remember who Travis Knight was. Like he played in LA for a little while. Like he was terrible. But those late 90s Celtics teams were trash. And
there's other situations too. We got Gordon Hayward.
No, I'm saying up until that point. So we say like, oh, we can't get X, Y, and Z. We're like, yeah, like Boston wasn't seen as a destination. I said 2016 because Boston was on the rise. Yes, you get Horford, you get you get Hayward the next year. You get in a position, to get a Kyrie Irving. So, and it's funny because I have to find the status that I wrote up, see if I can send it to you guys in our group chat. But about a month before Kyrie was traded, I made a status saying like, well, man, like if you can go in and get Kyrie, you do it. He's 3 years younger, more upside, so to speak. I said, you go do it. And then I remember, I never forget this because I was in my class and, we get an alert, Kyrie Irving's on the Celtics. I was like, what? Like, are you kidding me? Like, did we really just get Kyrie Irving? And once again, that's where he pushed the chips in because the initial plan, as we talked about on Sunday, the initial plan was Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis didn't want to come here. Fine, whatever, it happens. And who knows? Maybe Kyrie and KD was Danny's thing too, besides AD. Maybe it was that. And then, we met him in the Berkshires and he was like, I don't know. We'll see. They put all the big guns. Brady's around. David Ortiz is around. But it just
Jay Crowder.
Yeah, Jay Crowder. Yeah. So it's just like it just didn't work out that way. But I mean, I don't know, man. Like, listen, we because like you said, us not being a desirable location, at least not in basketball. It's funny because people come here in football, they came here in baseball as well. But you have to be attractive to that free agent. Like I said, most people don't want to live here, and that's fine. That's okay. But I will say this as a pitch: when you win in this city, you instantly become a legend. That's not a fact. I mean, that's not an opinion. That is a fact. So if that's what matters to you, then, you think about coming here. You think about setting up your legacy.
I don't know who that matters to anymore, though. It's a different.
Yeah, I mean, wrong, guys. It does matter because why do you think James Harden's looking to get sent to Brooklyn? Because the social media era now is if
he wants to be an NBA legend, not a Boston legend, though.
No. That's what I mean. But that's what I mean. Though, if you don't win by year 5 or year 6, now you're considered trash. You're a bum. Make something different. Go shake things up. It's like, wait a minute. Like, what happened to the chase? What happened to?
I mean, honestly, when we were kids, the stuff James Harden's doing right now, he'd be slated for. Like it's like, oh, you couldn't win in Houston would have been the narrative, but now it's like Houston couldn't win with James Harden. Like that little switch in narrative is like, which one's actually true? I wonder.
Not for Bobby.
It's James Harden. It's James Harden. Yes, it is.
But it's a mix of both because once again, when they traded for him in 2012 for Kevin Martin, or I forget who else was in the deal, he comes out. I think against OKC and drops like 46. It was like, whoa, like where was this at? And then Dwight Howard comes in the next year, and like we talked about the other day, Dwight Howard only had about a good year and a half there because his back was still hurting from what happened in LA, and it never really got rectified. So Howard gets traded, and then you bring in a few guys. They make the playoffs. I think they lost to Golden State in the 2014-2015 year. They ran into Golden State quite a lot, and we joke about that, but it's like, that 2014-2015 team was 67-15. Bobby, he didn't lose to a team that was 45-37. He didn't lose to that team. He lost to a team that's one of the greatest team in the 2010s, and it's not even close. Whether they had KD or not, he lost to a team that was much better. It's one thing if you lost to a team that was sub 500, or like I said, the only time I hold against him is what happened in 2018, because you can't be up 3-2. You have Game 6 at the crib and you lose. That can't happen. But other than that, I'm sorry. Like you other people around, you have to figure that part out. And yes, was some of his performance subpar? Absolutely. I'm not here to dispute that. If you think they get there without James Harden, you're smoking more than we know.
Listen, listen, you think the Celtics get to the Eastern Conference Finals without Jason Tatum? You're smoking more than we know. Right. That's what I mean. So like, it's the same.
That's not the same thing though. You're leveling, you're arguing that. Like you're arguing that,
but I'm just arguing. How does the risk really outweigh the reward? You're going to bring in another guy who's already known for losing, for not showing up in these big games, and you think that that's going to turn these guys around? That's blasphemy.
But let me ask you this seriously: how can you say James Harden isn't it because all he ever does is make it to the conference finals and he doesn't get there? But Jason Tatum, we got to stick with him because all he ever does is make it to the conference finals and doesn't get there. Both things can't be true. So,
because
like, I
he's
get that you're a homer.
22 years old, bro. If you told me James Harden wasn't great because he didn't get to the Eastern Conference Finals when he was 23, I would have told you you're fucking crazy, because he's 23 years old. The dude's 31. He's our age, and he hasn't gotten there. So it's like, listen, by the time you're 31,
he's still the best offensive player in the NBA.
Great,
like
you can be the best offensive
is,
player, but you're not going to be the best offensive player and take your team to that next level.
I think it's a little dangerous to just keep letting Tatum off the hook because of his age. Is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I agree, but I don't think bringing him in here is that answer.
So I think that we about beat the Celtics narrative into the ground. So I think I do want to just really quickly move to the other aspects of the NBA draft. Obviously, the Celtics are not the only team in the NBA, so we don't. I just want to real quick. Who was the best player taken for the draft or in the draft for you guys? Was it all Anthony Edwards? Are we all unanimous about that, or was there someone else in there that slid in?
Wiseman, to me, he's the guy that's going to make the fastest impact, at least. Going into Golden State into that situation, if they keep him, that's a big if. They needed him more than anything else on that team. They need a big man to go in there and clog that middle. We saw what they can do when they actually have a legitimate big threat down low. They won a championship with Andrew Bogut. All right, that's all I'm saying. So when you put a legitimate big man on that team, they are a dangerous team.
I think that would have been true, Bobby, if Clay didn't immediately get hurt. If we're talking if we're talking about best natural ability, I forgot about that
until this moment. Yeah.
If we're talking about best natural ability, like sure, but Clay got hurt immediately, and then it's like, oh, well, never mind then. It's all well and good until that happens. For me, I think like the best draft, like the best like impact player was the guy the Knicks got, that Obi Toppin guy.
He's good,
like I've never seen them draft that well before. Like he's an instant impact guy. Yeah. He's going to come in. He's actually going to make a difference for them. He's actually going to win them games. He's going to and they got him 8th, so like, that's like a pretty big deal. Like, yeah. Is he as good of a player as like some of the guys drafted above him? No, but like who won the top 10, like who won the draft? For me, it's the Knicks, because they finally did the right thing. They finally got their guy. They finally did the thing that they should have done by the time he fell to them. And he is going to make a difference for them. Like you can build around that guy.
But just for the sake of conversation, since you picked the guy I was going to pick, Dave, I'm going to go with Isaac Okoro from Auburn. In today's NBA, where guys can shoot the lights out and They run our screens really well, and you need a guy that can defend multiple positions. Isaac Okoro to me is the prototypical player in this type of draft. And I think he's going to do wonders I think he got drafted by Cleveland, I think at number 5. So that's to me was the best. But if we can get into winners, can we do winners and losers? Mike, can we do that?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So for me, I think so winners, like Dave said, I think New York was a winner. When you draft Obi Toppin at 8, and then on top of that, get Daniel Oturu from Minnesota at 33. I think that's phenomenal. And I know we've joked about them on the show. Philadelphia was winners last night, and I'm going to tell you why. When you can get rid of that contract that you did for Al Horford, and then you get rid of Josh Richardson, who to me, like I said, really should have just stayed in Miami. Like he's a system guy. He should have stayed in Miami, but they traded him away. I think that when you get rid of that contract and then you bring in 2 shooters with Danny Green and then Seth Curry, that to me, that 2017-2018 team that lost to Boston in the second round really was the best team Philly had because they had Covington, because they had Redick. They had so they had guys that can shoot it. So now they're getting that back. Daryl Morey has already done it in a week what Elton Brand couldn't do in a couple of years. So that's amazing. And then another team that I think was a winner actually was the Detroit Pistons, right? So I think some people were kind of worried about Bruce Brown being dealt. If you don't know who Bruce Brown
Forgot about the Detroit Pistons existing.
Killian Hayes, man.
Yeah.
Killian Hayes.
Well, yeah. So right. So that's not the pick I was happy about them getting. I think he's going to be he's a good playmaker. But Bruce Brown, he's from Massachusetts. Went to Wakefield High. People were kind of wondering, like, why would they deal him? He's been a starter there. Just like, well, now with them drafting Sadiq Bey out of Villanova, and they drafted Isaiah Stewart, who I thought would have been a great fit here in Boston too. Those are Dwayne Casey type guys. They defend, they play hard, they're going to be tough. So I think Detroit, and then like I said, you get a playmaker on top of that. So for them to get 3 first-round picks out of just only having the 7th pick, I think it's phenomenal, and that makes them winners. And then, so I'll leave it at that because I feel like I'm going on and on. But yeah, those are the guys. Those are 3 teams I thought definitely won the draft for sure last night.
Go ahead, Dave.
Can I do an honorable mention draft winner? The country of Nigeria. Two Nigerian players drafted, and then 5, I think 4 or 5 more with at least one parent from Nigeria. I've been saying for years that the all-Nigerian NBA team would beat the all-time NBA team. And we can do that on a separate podcast. But for some reason, Nigerian guys, super good at basketball. So shout out to the country of Nigeria. You guys did awesome. If you're never going to hear 7 Irish guys got drafted in the NBA draft last night. So, good for you guys.
Right. And then for the biggest losers, Bobby, who were your top 3 losers in the NBA draft last night?
I have my winner ready. So I think the first one to me, and this is just rounding out everything that we just talked about for the first 45 minutes, is I can't be about to say this. I think it's the Celtics. I like the pick that they did make in Nesmith. I like that pick a lot. But the rest of everything that happened just to me is a complete disaster. I think they're my first loser. The fact that Hayward opts out like he does, we couldn't get a deal done, and it's just all these rumors that always happen every single year. I think it ends up making us kind of look like the laughing stock of the league. You know what I mean? It's just every single year it's the same goddamn thing. We have got to make all these deals, and then we just end up taking these same 3 guys, and it's the same thing every year. So I just feel like it's just like, what the hell are we doing here? My second loser is the Charlotte Hornets. I think that LaMelo Ball, to me, I don't know, or LeVar Ball, or LaMelo.
LaMelo, yeah.
So LaMelo, yeah, thank you. LeVar's a dad. I think LaMelo does not have the potential that people see. I don't know what people see in him. I watch his tape. I don't think it's that impressive. Especially playing in a league like the Australian Basketball League. If you're going to come to the NBA and think that you're going to be a good player here, then you better be dominating in Australia. And the tape I was watching is not that. So I don't know why he had such a hype that he did. I really think it is just that Ball name. Add in that he went to Michael Jordan in the worst drafter in the history of the NBA. I think just caps that right off the top.
In the history of the NBA, that might be extreme.
One of the worst. One of the worst.
Don't back away from your take, dude.
He's one of the worst.
Bobby.
There's a lot of bad drafters
Kelly
out
over
there,
here.
man. There's a lot of bad drafters out there. All right. I'm all about letting everyone get the credit, even if it's bad credit. You know that. And my last loser, to me, listen, the entire NBA draft is to me the last loser. I was so disappointed in the whole thing. I was expecting so many fireworks, so much to happen. And the biggest draft deal we got of the night was Luke Kennard traded for.
The fans are the biggest.
Yeah, it's a joke every year where we think it's going to be this big thing, but it ends up being like the NFL trade deadline. It's like, what just happened? Nothing.
Sometimes it's pretty cool, but yeah, last night was a dud.
Yeah, so that's my third one. It's just the NBA fans. The whole draft was a loser.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think as far as losers go, Minnesota. When you have a guy saying that he'd rather play in the NFL than play in the NBA, and you went number one, is crazy. But it just speaks to the ineptitude of a franchise that Minnesota's been since 1989. Their best player was Kevin Garnett, and he was picked fifth in 1995. So. It just speaks to how bad that franchise has been. And then also bringing back Ricky Rubio for the 19th millionth time at this moment is unacceptable. And I know that Woj spoke on there last night about Ricky Rubio being loved in Minnesota. And okay, cool. But love for what? He was part of the worst back-to-back picks ever in the draft. You go back and forth, you go Johnny Flynn. Johnny Flynn got drafted mainly because of what happened in that 6 overtime game against Connecticut. And then, Rubio was, supposed to be that flash in the pan coming over from Spain. And, yeah, I mean, listen, I like his game a little bit. I think he's okay. He's not something that's going to wow you. His game doesn't wow me, but he's okay. But to get him for the third or fourth time to me is just unacceptable at this point. Chicago drafting Patrick Williams at 4. I just don't know how he went before his teammate Devin Vassell, who I thought Boston could have gotten to if he had fell down to 14. Someone who's going to defend really well, someone that can also shoot it. He's not a better shooter than Neesmith, but definitely can shoot it. I think he was 42% from 3. But Patrick Williams is tough. But there's no way that he should have went before his teammate or Toppin, or Isaac Okoro. That just shouldn't have happened.
Before Ray steals all the losers, let me get one in because you said all the losers possible. Let me just throw out the Milwaukee Bucks. Like, I know they didn't draft.
Oh, they're not on my list, but okay.
Thank God, because I was like, he's just gonna say every team. Just Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks didn't draft, I don't think, in the first round. And I'm not criticizing their draft, but their draft night was embarrassing because that Bogdanovich thing, where they were like bragging that they got Bogdanovich in like this sign and trade deal, and then Bogdanovich was like, I didn't fucking agree to that. So, and like,
wait,
again,
did you say Milwaukee? Yeah. I'm not.
And it's like, and also, you're looking at that Milwaukee situation, and it's on a knife's edge. And I know they brought some talent in, and I know they were looking at some other guys. And it was good that because they got rid of Bledsoe, right? Bledsoe's gone.
Yep, Bledsoe and George Hill. Yep.
Okay, yeah. Which I've been saying for years, like Bledsoe's not going to be your guy. Like he was like the best backup point guard for a while, and like he should have stayed that. He didn't have the ceiling to be like the best guard on a championship winning team. Yeah, well, I like Jamal Crawford. That's a whole different conversation. I like Jamal Crawford a lot actually, but that's a whole different conversation. But the Milwaukee Bucks, something's got to give there, and I think if I was Giannis, looking at that Bogdanovich thing, looking at the kind of moves that they're making, looking at the cap that they have, I don't know. I don't see him playing in Milwaukee for much longer. So I'm gonna say a loser of draft night because that was a storyline of draft night was the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't even think that to put that there, but
I'm shocked honestly.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna hit all the points. The last loser to me was Golden State, right? And it's, mainly because I'm like, Clay going down, that was unfortunate, obviously. But then, to me, I still think they should have moved that number 2 pick. Like, I get it, getting Wiseman, if they felt that he was can't miss, then so be it. But like, Wiseman doesn't help them win the championship next year.
he's still a project even at number 2. Like, I think he's going to be very good. I think he's someone that could be a perennial all-star, maybe an MVP. Him being left-handed, he kind of reminds me of David Robinson.
He's got a lot. I see him as a cat. I think he's a lot of Karl Anthony Towns. They're very similar, those two.
I mean, they better hope that he is that, because if he's not, then it's like, okay, well, it was a waste of pick. But I just think that he, Golden State definitely were lost mainly because of what happened with Clay. And then, like you said, you couldn't move that number 2 pick and Andrew Wiggins. Like, I felt like that, to me, everyone was thinking like, oh man, like they got the pick and then they got Wiggins, like they're gonna move those guys. So just like our fans were thinking, oh, we're gonna move off the pick, but they didn't move off that pick. So I just felt like, okay, you could have turned it into some other team would have been desperate. Like Boston would have been desperate to get that number 2 pick, and I'm positive, like we talked about yesterday, I'm positive they would have drafted Wiseman at number 2, or who knows, maybe they traded for somebody else to get some veteran help. But we'll never know. But those are my 3 losers: Minnesota, Chicago, and Golden State.
Can I just make one more loser? It's more of like a depressing loser. I just feel bad for him. And Ray already mentioned him.
Didn't you just name the entire NBA draft as a loser?
Wait, one more. So, yes, I did. But so Ricky Rubio is one of the saddest things I've ever seen, and what happened to him in the 48 hours. He got traded from the Phoenix Suns. He sent out a tweet being like, oh, man, because he liked the Suns. He liked being there. He sent out a tweet being like, man, I guess this is the business. Upside down smiley face. Less than 16 hours later, he got traded again. It was just like, bro, yeah, this is the business. Guess what? You're out of here again. See you later.
Yeah, and it's just like, and to speak to that too, because I think we talked about it. Did the Chris Paul trade already go down by the time we talked on Sunday? Might have been afterwards, right?
It was like at the same time.
It was going to be spoken about, but either way, I just had to put this out there because I thought about it. It's like, man, if Devin Booker put 26, 6, and 5 playing next to Ricky Rubio, what do you think he's going to do with Chris Paul? My God.
Mm-hmm.
My God. what do you think he's going to do?
8 and 2 with Chris Paul down low.
They drafted Jalen Smith
Phoenix
out of
is
Maryland.
going to be real, man. Phoenix is going to be good next year. Look out for Phoenix. That's what we're going to end it on.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that feels like a great way to end it. So thank you guys all so much for joining us on this inaugural episode of the NBA Draft Review, just the tip-off show. My name is Michael Marcangelo. Was joined by Rayshawn Buchanan, the real BK, Bob Kelly, DK Sizzle, Dave Clarke, and the best producer in all of the lands, Craig D'Alessandro. So until episode 18, we'll talk to you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Missing the Point. Missing the Point is a 1-hour weekly, 2-hour monthly podcast recapping the biggest stories in the world of sports with a New England flavor. The show notes and transcript of today's episode can be found in the description box below, as well as on our website, mtpshow.com. If you're new to the show, please consider subscribing. It's the easiest way to see when we publish new episodes. We are on iTunes, Spotify, Google, and wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to rate us and leave a review of any of our shows. We always appreciate your feedback. And be sure to follow us on all of our social medias. All of our links will be in the show notes. And check out our brand new website, www.mtpshow.com. That's mtpshow.com. For Missing the Point, I'm Craig D'Alessandro. We'll talk to you next time.
Welcome, explorers of the human experience. This is Let's Talk Soul, and I'm your host, Claudia Monticelli. We're not afraid of the great mysteries of existence here. Soul versus consciousness, we're on it. Spirituality versus science, we've got that covered too. Join us in navigating these profound topics with wisdom, curiosity, and a dash of audacity. Whether you're a spiritual veteran or just starting your journey, Let's Talk Soul is your passport to the unknown. Let's Talk Soul, diving into the depths of the human spirit. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Ringside with Ray and Prince. My name is Ray Leonard Jr.
Oh, is that the shit? No, that's just my dad.
My name is Prince Daniels Jr.
Daniels again with a big home touchdown.
On this show, we come to humanize
athletes, entertainers, business executives. We're going to see what makes them tick.
Tuesdays, 10 a.m. Pacific time on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever you get your podcasts.
We'll see you there. Peace and power.
Electricast. Electricast.